So this morning, you may have guessed, I'm going to be talking about the Antahkarana, the bridge of consciousness. This is why we had that beautiful meditation. It's kind of hard to come back. But I think the talk this morning will help you create that bridge between the meditation and what we're going to be talking about here. It will help you understand this meditation better and why it is part of the process, this particular meditation, and the process we're told within the meditation will help us to build the Antahkarana. Some of today's talk will be a bit abstract, but I'm going to do my best to help you understand it in a really practical way. But we do have to start with the abstract. So just stay focused with me, okay? The central core of existence tries to manifest, tries to express, and release itself. That's the first really, really important point, because we're going to talk about a little reciprocity going on here. So I'm going to repeat myself. The central core of existence tries to manifest, tries to express, and then to release itself. Each atom, each cell, here's the reciprocity. Each atom, each cell tries to build a path to communicate with this ever-expanding core, the nucleus. Agni Yoga brings this whole process into a practical level of experience and practice. So that tells us that Agni Yoga, practicing the disciplines, understanding the path of Agni Yoga, and that it is a life path, is also going to help you build this bridge of consciousness. So I've got a whole bunch of wires down here, and I'm like, so give me a moment here. No, it's not working. Okay.
Do you need some assistance?
So the central core reveals that there is a core in each atom. The central core reveals that there is a core within each atom, and as such, the purpose of this little life manifesting in the atom. There's a little life inside the atom, within the atom, manifesting in such a way that it is going to make its essential oneness in all levels of consciousness. So the key point here to think about is oneness, that little spark of existence that is within the core is what is going to help us understand the essential oneness with all life. As the little life becomes conscious of the central core and feels its rhythm, think about the cosmic magnet, the heart of the universe, how we're trying to breathe and feel in rhythm with this cosmic heart. The same thing is going on here. This little life within the atom, as it becomes conscious, and that's the key word, as it becomes conscious with the central core and feels the rhythm in its heart, it is progressively manifesting the greater and greater glory hidden within the central core of the universe. This is the ultimate expression of creativity. So when you ask, what is creativity? This is the ultimate expression. The whole purpose of creativity is to manifest this central beauty in all kingdoms. can I repeat this? I'm just trying to make sure you guys are really concentrated because we had such a big party yesterday celebrating our 38th anniversary. So the whole purpose of creativity is to manifest the central beauty in all kingdoms and eventually in and through mankind. However, such creativity is not possible until we build a bridge between the manifested life and the core of the universe. So in our meditation this morning, this is why we were looking in the eyes of that little kitty with the trees, laying down on the earth and feeling the earth. We're trying to create that oneness and build a bridge between the manifested life and the core of the universe. This means that we must progressively form a conscious center on each plane to feel, to observe, to assimilate, and to translate that beauty that we are going to contact on each plane. Once we contact that essential beauty on each plane, then we must create this beauty on the lower levels. From above below, bring it in to manifestation. And so, in and through this most incredible process, each life form is assisting the central core to manifest itself. So over eons of time, when the progressing atom passes through all the kingdoms of life and finally meets that central core, the central core becomes the monad, and the monad, the central core. And thus the meaning I and my Father are one. Isn't that magnificent? The Antahkarana is the bridge of consciousness that provides the continuity of consciousness. It is a path. It is a path built by the act of fiery fusion. So what is fiery fusion? It is a joining together of your greater self with that almighty self. That's fiery fusion. When you consciously become the path, you become aware of your oneness. The personal Antahkarana as a whole is the contact point between the central core and the totality of life on the planet. As a human being, we must not only build our individual Antahkarana between the divisions within our nature and reach our true self, but we must also build bridges within ourselves and between all other human beings. Each manifested life form then is building a web of contact with the whole of the universe. This is evolution. See, this is what evolution is. It is also true that close communication with each other can involve personal activities as well. Close communication, such as sharing your emotions, sharing your thoughts, your spiritual and material interests. You are building close communication. This is not being sympathetic, it's being empathetic. Empathetic. However, these activities should be watched very carefully so that the spiritual contact does not suffer. See, that we don't get pulled into the lower density of the causes underlying emotions and thoughts and materialism and so forth. So that the spiritual contact that we are creating, we are communicating with one another. We don't want to destroy the spirituality that's going on. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. When higher contact is broken or weakened, then the lower contact produces painful problems and separatism and ends with non-contact. So trying to put this together again, the idea is that as we are building an empathetic rapport with one another, for example, a loved one dies. It's a very interesting experience to become empathetic with an individual who has lost a loved one. Typically, you know, most human beings do not feel empathy. They feel sympathy. But the empathy between the two of you goes so deeply into the whole process of that manifesting life that you feel the separation. You feel the separation between your friend and their lost one, the one that just passed. You feel it. Where the danger comes in is when you try to take, it's not easy to explain, can you tell? Is when you say things to that person, life gets easier, you'll adapt. You say all the wrong words because you're coming from your concrete mind and you're trying to save that person from their loss and so forth. That's just being sympathetic. And when you've lost someone who's so dear to you and part of you, you're going to treasure that empathetic friend. You'll smile at the sympathetic friend, but you will treasure the empathetic friend because of oneness. If you are part of a spiritual group, this is especially important to understand. For without a unity of consciousness, a continuity of consciousness, this results in a breakdown of communication, of intuitional interaction among the group participants that can lead to broken contact with the leadership of the group and thus the higher ashram. Unity, intuitional interaction are so important to build that continuity of consciousness, that Antahkarana bridge. So to repeat, when the higher contact has been broken or weakened, the lower contact then produces painful problems and separatism and ends with non-contact. The Antahkarana must be built within ourselves and between the souls of the group members. Then the combined Antahkarana must make contact with the hierarchy and then with Shambhala and beyond. It is this Antahkarana that brings group movements throughout the world with great awakenings and culture and social changes. Through such an Antahkarana, the will and purpose of higher beings penetrate into the life of humanity. So we can observe that some travelers of life do not have a path, right? They do not have a path. The teaching of Agni Yoga emphasizes that we must have a life direction. To have a life direction means that we have a path. This path then leads us from our lower self to our true self. This is why, as parents, as grandparents, as godparents, our job, one of our many jobs, one of our many responsibilities to help our young ones is to give them direction. Find their talent, discover their love, even if they're 3 years old, and give them the opportunity to practice that talent, whether it is play baseball or to roller skate. Oh, boy, is that going back a ways. Roller skating. Oh, man. Anyway, moving on. Music lessons. Give them something that they are going to practice and to recognize direction, a sense of direction. So even if they don't want to play the flute, or they don't want to play the violin, or they don't want to play the piano, that's going to morph into something else. Say, well, I don't like the piano, but I want to try this. See? They're starting to build a life direction, even at the age of 3. We must have a vision, a revelation, and we must strive to contact that vision and thus build a path toward its realization. I was so fortunate, I feel I was fortunate when actually I was adopted, and I was adopted when I was age 2. Up until that time, I was part of this program where, with a bunch of babies at a university, we were tested with all different kinds of aptitude tests. So when mom and dad adopted me, they were given the potential of this little baby. So this baby, as myself, as I was adopted into this family, I already had a sense of direction, which was music. Through all those aptitude tests, said this is what her talent is going to be. So at the age of 2, they already knew and gave me that sense of direction. So I thought that was quite a gift. So I still do. I'm so grateful for that. That was an opportunity. So we can't start too young with our little ones and helping them build or giving them a vision or a sense of self and self-importance. So we must strive to contact a vision and build a path toward the realization of that vision. It's manifestation. So sometimes it happens that we realize we ourselves are part of a group vision. See, what's so beautiful to me, oh man, I'm gonna have to short in here. There's so much to share. It's like if we have that 2-year-old that was given a vision, that vision grows up with her. See, that vision then becomes part of a greater vision. So we may have a vision at the age of 2, but that vision is a piece of a greater vision. So when we come into a group, we're bringing a piece of our own vision to make the group vision a greater whole. There's the oneness. A group vision where each member of the group is a piece of that vision. A piece that, listen to this, a piece that by a magnetic energy will participate in the manifestation of their group vision. This is why group unity and group collaboration is so vital. Without such unity, there will be divisions among the pieces that will prevent the vision from manifesting. Or at times, such pieces will be thrown out and replaced. But it takes time to replace broken pieces. You must strive to contact that vision and build a path toward it. You must consciously, it's a key word, consciously travel on it without losing your awareness of the path and the different dimensions on your path. Your awareness will express itself as a synthesis in your life and in your relationships. Do you see how it's all coming together? You are traveling to yourself through your capital S self, through yourself. To build the Antahkarana means to be oneself, to be aware or awake. You are awakening into other dimensions. So we have three main threads of the Antahkarana. Most of you know this already. And if you don't, now you do. So we have three main threads: the life thread. Remember that when we studied that? The life thread, the consciousness thread, and the creative thread. So the life thread is what connects us with the universal aspects of the will and the purpose of the great life. The consciousness thread is what connects us with hierarchy. Isn't that interesting? The consciousness thread connects us with hierarchy. It also connects us with the plan of hierarchy and with the higher self, and of course the spiritual triad. That's the consciousness. So we have the life thread, the consciousness thread, and now the creative thread. And the creative thread is what connects us with life in general to manifest the beauty on all planes. Every action against living forms damages the life thread and creates a static in our communication. When the life thread does not function properly, the body enters into a cycle of health problems. The life thread that connects us to the universal aspects and the will and the purpose of life. When the life thread does not function properly, our body enters into a cycle of health problems. And this means individually, but also collectively. A pandemic. This means that any action, any emotion, or any thought which is against survival and hurts the life of other forms creates hindrances in the web of life. For example, and I'm getting back to the personal. Criminal thoughts damage our brain. I'm not going to go into what a criminal thought is, but just think about it. Hatred, jealousy, and anger will damage our heart and our lungs. Activities carried on with intentions that goes against the life damages our kidneys because the corresponding web burns in those areas. Any damaged part of the web attracts negative forces into our aura. Now, I know there's so much in what I'm sharing here, but the recording will be on YouTube later on today, or you can order, a CD of it, probably a DVD as well, and study it and think about it, and you'll get it. You'll get it. Eventually you'll get it. So what can we do to stop damaging this web? we must seriously realize that hatred is not life. So stop hating. Hatred is not life. Can you see the New York Times, the front page? Hatred is not life. Fear is not life. This means we're going against. We're in opposition to that central core. If we hate, if we have fear, crime is not life, and the practice of separation is not life. When any part of our web is hurt or damaged, our balance then is distorted. When any part of our web is hurt or damaged, our balance is distorted, and we are out of tune. There's a wonderful book written by Torgrim Saradarian, 2 books actually, and they're called, what are they called? Let's see. Esoteric Healing is one of them, and New Dimensions in Healing, New Dimensions in Healing. You can get these 2 books, go to our website, go online to the bookstore and order them, and spend the next 5 years studying them, and you'll understand what the web is all about. When a person is out of tune, they become an open field for various attacks by dark forces. And then obsession or possession takes place. When the Antahkarana is built, we can think on abstract levels of the mind and create on the concrete levels. We can think on the abstract levels and then create on the concrete levels of the mind. In other words, everything that is abstract in our mind can be translated into practical terms. Higher mind, lower mind, concrete mind. So everything that is abstract in our mind can be translated in practical terms in concrete levels of the mind and life without losing the intensity, the power, and the beauty of the abstract thoughts and ideas. Also remember that anything that is objective and concrete can also be translated into abstract terms. That's very powerful. Not easy to do, but it's doable. So when the Antahkarana is built, we can see things from the abstract or the concrete point of view. The sense of direction is born through the bridge of consciousness. The sense of direction helps us always to orient ourselves toward true north, that sense of direction. This is interesting, memory. Memory is part of the Antahkarana. Did you know that? It is part of the Antahkarana. As human beings, we have throughout the ages built the bridge between the brain, the etheric brain, and the 4 levels, lower levels of the mind. This is why we remember things which happened yesterday, or 50, or 60, or 70 years ago. We remember our studies. We even remember our thoughts. Such memory is conscious registration of events on the line of the lower Antahkarana. The lower Antahkarana. Later, we must develop conscious registration of events taking place on higher planes, the higher mental plane. It is possible to contact higher planes or even visit higher planes but have no memory. Now we know why we don't have a memory yet. conscious registration of higher planes starts when the Antahkarana extends itself through the mental plane to the mental permanent atom. And when our consciousness, that line of consciousness, that line of communication goes through the higher mental plane, through the mental permanent atom, that's when the door opens into the intuitional or Buddhic plane and Atmic plane of consciousness. When the Antahkarana is developed, you can remember physical events on the mental plane. You can remember physical events when your consciousness is on the mental plane. All memory is in the network of the Antahkarana. We can also have a memory of things which we remember in subjective planes. For example, you remember an event in a subjective ashram which occurred a month ago. And you related it to an event which is taking place now on the physical, mental, or any other plane if that line of communication is there. All of our experiences are collected in the permanent atoms, which are the reservoirs on the thread of the Antahkarana. When your Antahkarana is built, your memories are records of the experiences of the permanent atoms are connected and related to each other and to your human soul. I know this is a very advanced teaching, but come on. You know, we don't want to stay in kindergarten forever, right? And actually we already know this. We're just now bringing it into the light of day. Hey, and so it's like that first day that I heard the word hierarchy, and yes, right? I may not have known about the 105 Kumaras and now the 7 and the so on, but it just was in me. I knew it. And the same thing that we're talking about this morning, we may not know the details, but if you get those 2 books and you think about this, pretty soon it's just part of your awareness. And you'll begin to have experiences. So, this continuity of communication through the Antahkarana bridge stays with us, not only from one life to another, but in between incarnations. We do not lose it. That thread of continuity stays with us in and out of incarnation. The chalice. The chalice is also the depository of memory, but there is one major difference. The difference is everything that is collected in the chalice we call precious jewels that we have discovered and lived in our life experiences. So all good. The jewels of our life are deposited in the chalice. The Antahkarana is the line through which inspirations reach us from the impressions coming from universal sources. As we build the Antahkarana, we become more and more creative because we contact the planes where the prototypes of great beauty exists. Millions of years of accumulated beauty in the subjective planes are now available to you. And then you have to come back to this planet. The Dust Bowl of Arizona. I'm sorry, it's just, we have to lighten up a little bit. Millions of years of accumulated beauty on the subjective planes are now available to us. It is the treasure house where an initiate can enter and bring beauty to the world, giving it life, direction, joy, and prosperity. The Antahkarana works like a computer. It selects things and rearranges things according to our need at the time. For example, when you are giving a lecture, the inner computer brings to your attention an experience, a parable, a story, an event related to your lecture to enrich your lecture and make it more impressive. And it helps us to connect better with one another. It also warns you, this computer called Antahkarana also warns us, just don't say this. If you say this, it'll put you in danger. Or they're not ready to hear this. Or you forgot this. It is also possible for your inner computer to connect you with what? With greater wisdom. That inner computer. This is how creativity increases through the building of your Antahkarana. As you build your Antahkarana, you become more inclusive in your reception and expression. Fanaticism, which is a heavy burden on the shoulders of beginners, slowly disappears as the person progresses on the path of discipleship. The disciple teaches the wisdom of life and the beauty of love and sacrificial service in such a way that their teaching does not limit or enslave people. If you are a teacher of Agni Yoga and the wisdom, this is an important point for you to remember. A disciple does not travel on any dead-end street. A disciple never builds a teaching that is a dead end. They never become their own trap. Fanaticism is a form of making yourself a slave of your own mental fabrications. So let's say that you want to write something. Your Antahkarana connects your mind and your brain to those centers which have the needed wisdom collected over the ages. These centers can be opened when your Antahkarana contacts them and you transmit the wisdom consciously with full awareness and understanding. When you tune it to any station, it broadcasts that station to you. There will come a time when you will be able to tune in with all stations. So I'm about done here, so let me just say this, that there are a few points on how to build the Antahkarana. Observation is one of those points. When you observe your actions and activities without identification, you will notice that you are gradually withdrawing to your true self. As you pass from one state of consciousness to another, you're building continuity of consciousness between them, and this allows you to function on higher and higher levels. So observation helps us first to be aware that we are not the body. Once you realize that, then the rest will come easy. And this is how we detach ourselves from anything, if we give ourselves enough time. What's very tough is when you enter the emotional plane or the emotional level, because we so quickly identify with our emotions. You know, they're almost like a permanent impression that we just carry around with everything from one life to another. But as we're awakening, as we're moving from the release of identification with our physical, then we're going to do the same thing with all these collected emotions that act like a continuous movie picture. What's it? In the theater when we used to go into the theater and watch a movie. Well, now we're just watching it, unfold and play in our emotional or astral level. So there we tend to identify with our observations. But if we press forward and continue observing, even observe our desires, they eventually will drop away and no longer have control over us. Mental observation is a little tricky because we think we are what we think. We think we are what we think. Also, our mind is so elusive, but if we continue long enough, we'll be able to detach ourselves from the mind. The intelligence is caught in the mental plane, which is the prison. The teaching tells us this is the prison of the thickest walls. The bridge cannot be built as long as we are attached to one of our personality bodies or attached to Maya, glamour, and illusion. Willpower is another way to build the bridge. Willpower, this is interesting. I'm trying to skip through this because I have about 1 minute left. Willpower only increases when there is opposition. In other words, crises. So be grateful for crises, because that will be an element that will, or a component that will help us to build the Antahkarana bridge. Willpower only increases when there is opposition. Galvanization, crises creates a galvanization of our whole nature with willpower, and so willpower must occur at the same time as the crises. It is willpower that leads us to divine loneliness. That's another whole lecture. Divine loneliness. It makes you sacrifice and detach on all levels. It makes you give all that you are and all that you have to reach your purpose. And I think I shall close right there so I won't get hung in effigy for keeping you late for lunch. Anyway, thank you for letting me share this talk today. I was so excited. I've been so excited to share this. It's so powerful. And next week I'm going to be talking about the cosmic magnet again. It all works together, all ties together. So tune in. Meanwhile, have a beautiful week. Stay healthy, stay safe, meditate. Thank you.